You don't have to reveal this on the air, but are you thinking about possibly like in the walls of the temple hiding some cash so that the liquidators can't get to it?
Now, that's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea at all.
That's not a bad idea because people might look at it and be like, well, this isn't going to fetch much on the market, this doghouse.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
It's
mind.
it's the offshore Cayman Islands holding account. It's too obvious. Everyone's moving into storing their money in a bespoke little dog temple that they've made.
That's true. Nobody's going to think to
fabrics.
look in the dog temple, are
Yeah.
they?
Yeah. People will look in there to just see the little dog. But then no further questions.
And
We've
they're not
seen
going to
the
get
stained glass
closer because
window.
he'll be like...
Yeah, exactly. Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Do Everything, a podcast where I, Tommy Daslow, an incredibly stupid young man, attempts to learn everything in the human experience by chatting with different guest experts about what they've learned, what they've always known how to do, and what they feel the stupidest about. Today on the show, Danielle Walker is going to teach me how to appreciate musical theatre, how not to die in the middle of the bush, and how to upcycle, how to take things off the street and make them your own. If you are in Melbourne, please come and see my new stand-up show, Main Character. It is on at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival from March 26th until April the 6th. You can get tickets at my website, tommydasilo.com. I'm also going to be in Sydney and in Brisbane. Both of those are in May. Please come along and see the show. Really, really loving doing it. Really happy with it. Would love to see some of you guys there. Today on the show, you know her from Taskmaster Season 1, Danielle Walker, one of my favourite comedians, someone I absolutely love spending time with. I was up in Sydney, so I took the opportunity to do this episode with her. Great to talk about some of her bush survival skills. And this story that I tell is expanded upon in my stand-up show. So this is a little taste tester for that. But heaps of other stuff to get into with Danielle in this episode. And so please enjoy this episode, How to Do Everything with Danielle Walker.
We stayed in Airbnb when I was still with Jono when his granddad died. And there was a lady living downstairs who didn't own the property but was caretaker. And apparently the lady who owned both the house upstairs and this underneath area, she likes to, give people who've had a rough time in life a second chance. So this lady downstairs is like, one of those people who's clearly an ex-addict. You can tell because they've still got the like shaky vibe.
Yeah.
And they're like the yelling and stuff. And so she would get angry anytime we like moved about upstairs. But then midway through, she started accusing us of doing heroin and leaving needles like in the park opposite.
Okay, not even in
the house, just in the park opposite.
Oh my God.
And we were just so confused. Anyway, Jono got his account banned off Airbnb because of this. But it was so confusing because
So
I was
she
like,
put that through as like a review.
As a
It was
review,
like
as a
one
complaint.
star, they were shooting up.
They were shooting up in the park opposite. And it's like in the house was me, Jono, and Jono's mum.
Right.
And also like I went to the park once because it was my birthday and I needed to call my nana and dad and everybody and didn't want to do all the birthday calls in the house.
Yeah, and she's
but
like...
I wasn't doing heroin.
She's like, she's calling the
She's
dealer.
over there doing heroin in the park. But I think I reckon maybe somebody in the area found needles and maybe she's on it again.
But also, like,
Should chill her
giving
out.
you a bad review on Airbnb for something that they're accusing of you doing in the park across the road.
Yeah.
Guess what? That's international waters.
Yeah.
That's not the domain of the Airbnb. You can't see me down the street like kicking a dog and then go like, hey, 1 star, bad house guest. If I didn't do it in your house, you have no right. That's not what the Airbnb rating system is for.
That's actually true. And I mean, I'm fine that he doesn't have access to Airbnb anymore. But,
Yeah.
That is true. If you're not doing it, it is international waters. You're right.
Something that leapt out to me that is a skill that you've had from being young is being savvy in the bush.
Yeah.
So you grew up like in the bush and just like that was something that was like around you from a young age and you just like learnt by what sort of osmosis and just being exposed to it?
No, my granddad. Because
he was like, you're going to need to know this.
Mum was pretty young when she had me. So she was like 21 or something. And then granddad, he was caretaker at the army camp in Tully. So that's like, it's like just heaps and heaps of rainforest. And it's so that when the army come and run drills, they can like pretend they're doing the Kokoda Trail or something, you know?
Right, yeah.
It's that sort of like, there's mud, there's squelch, you'll have to climb up this horrific terrain, you know?
Isn't it awesome how even the most serious jobs have an element of dress up to them?
Yeah.
You know, like the most hardened bloke would like see, you know, the people that do live action role playing?
Yeah.
Would drive past it and think like, that's pathetic. But every job, everyone in their life has some version of that.
Yeah, I think that like, you know how there's musical theatre and then there's, you know, like a local production of musical theatre. That's just the difference between the army and the army reserves.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
it's
the
like-
community production of Shrek the Musical
Yeah,
is
that's
the reserves. Yeah.
And if something happens and the real Shrek from Shrek, I don't know who that would be, Shane Jacobs or something, if he gets the flu and then the understudy from that gets the flu eventually.
Yeah. They're just working their way down.
Toowoomba local theatre gets called up.
Yeah.
Do you have a Shrek?
I went to a show recently, a musical, and they had the understudy in, and it reminded me, I went when I was quite young, post Blue Heelers. Lisa McCune was in The Sound of Music.
Wow.
And you know when they get like there's like a marquee name in the show. And so obviously that was a big part of the reason why a lot of people were there, myself and my mum included.
Wow.
We were diehard Blue Heelers fans. And lights go down, voice comes over the speakers and goes, "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight the role of Maria will be played by," and it was the understudy.
No.
And you just heard everyone in the theatre go, "Oh." And this show I went to recently, it was the understudy, but it was like, you know, the person doing the role normally isn't like a known
Not a household name.
So it wasn't like a big deal.
Yeah.
But just imagine you're the understudy and you're like, this is your moment to step up, and then you just hear the announcement backstage and you hear an entire theatre of people go, "Oh."
You know what I like about that, though, is that, I mean, I'm sure Lisa McCune was incredible at whatever this role was. Maria, right?
I guess the lead, yeah.
I like that she's the name that's getting people who don't usually go to theatre in.
Right.
Right? But then the understudy's probably like a musical theatre person. And so the nerds in the crowd who know about musical theatre are probably like, "Oh, yes, finally.
This is her time.
our stuff."
Yeah, good point.
You
one
nerds.
One of us getting the chance to rise up. No,
Yeah.
you're totally right. Yeah.
All these losers, all these posers can eat our asses.
Yeah. It would be a great move to have a show like that where you have the understudy is far and away the most famous name in the cast. And so it just becomes this real roll of the dice of your odds are like 1 in 1,000 that maybe you're going to get. Maybe you're at the Narry Warren Players Presents Shrek the Musical, and there's a 1 in 1,000 chance that maybe Hugh Jackman steps out there, and he's got to be there every night. He's got to be there, ready to go, and everyone's like, "God, I hope this little dork who's actually playing the role gets sick this evening."
That should be a thing. Do you know how crazy I would be? I would go to every
I'd
production.
go every night, yeah.
Because the thing that would be so good about that is not the fact Hugh Jackman is in it, but the fact that Hugh Jackman is in it opposite the local
Just all
theatre
these
society.
dipshits. Yeah.
Because I was in a local theatre society,
Right.
The Townsville Choral Society, and we did Chess the Musical once, and then the guy who was the lead, because we didn't have an understudy,
Right.
and he got a cold really
That's high
bad.
stakes.
So he had a whiskey flask on stage and was trying to like sip it, and then his voice was cracking through
Yeah,
multiple
great.
performances.
Great. What I like about this idea of having the marquee name be the understudy is that I reckon at a certain point you are going to get people who want to like kind of influence the outcome. And I reckon this person who's doing the lead role that Hugh Jackman's the understudy for, he's going to have to really start looking over his shoulder when he's out and about down the shops. You're going to get people who are being like, "You know what, I got tickets for tonight. And I really want to see The Boy from Oz," and just like pushing this poor kid down the steps at the supermarket to try and make sure that they get Hugh Jackman on the night that they're going.
That is true, and they've got to have they must have an understudy because if it's the 1 in 1,000, it's only going to be a one-off that Hugh Jackman comes. So they're going to have to find out who the other understudy is.
Yeah.
Get rid of them too.
Yeah.
In a freak accident.
Yes.
Because they're going to need to keep the performance going because the rental on her theatre is pretty expensive.
Hey, the
for a
show
night.
must go on.
The show must go on. We're going to have to chop her out.
Yep.
The Boy from Oz.
So you've got the real like bush survival skills. If you were helicoptered in dropped in the middle of nowhere now, you think you'd be all right?
Well, I could have Dunning-Kruger about it, but I do feel like Granddad taught me a lot, if only specifically if it was to the area that I grew up in.
Okay, right.
Because I know the plants up there.
Yeah.
You know, so I'd be able to be like, oh, I know those berries. I know that those mushrooms are all good. Mm-hmm. I know what to do. And also, can we stop survivalism? By the way,
here we go.
I think it's kind of like, of course, I would be like, please let me do alone just so I can test myself.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I sort of go like, sorry, but if I ever do fall out of a plane into the bush, my goal isn't to survive in the bush for just as long as possible. My goal is to find civilization to get me out of the bush.
To get out.
And I feel like they just teach you stuff at school. They're like, find water. Well, mostly they're like, stay where you are. Stay where you are for forever. They just tell you that. But then the second thing they're like is, if you do decide to move, follow the creek.
Yeah.
You know? And they're like, downstream.
Yeah.
You know?
Because I found myself in basically this experience that you're describing quite recently. I went to a wedding in the bush in the country.
Sorry, I was like, you fell out of a plane?
I fell out of a plane. I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here. I probably shouldn't, I've just filmed it. I got kicked out really early, but I'll break the NDA.
Is that why they make them jump out of a plane at the start?
What do you mean? Why?
So that it mimics the idea of them falling out of a plane. Do they all? No, they don't all, because some enter in high heels.
I don't know. I've to be completely honest, I've never watched it.
Wow.
No offense to your previous employer, Channel 10, but I've never watched I'm a Celebrity, get me out of here.
Wow.
Are you allowed to say that in the biz?
Can you? I don't know. I think you have to pretend just in case you want to do it.
Yeah. Oh, who knows what opportunities that might cut me off from.
Please tell me this wedding story, because to me, I then want to immediately be like, you wouldn't survive in the bush.
Oh, no, that's been proven. Like, so it was like in the bush. I was staying in like a little Airbnb that was just a little kind of granny flat out the back of a house. And the whole house was like just on the edge of the bush.
Yeah.
And by weird coincidence, it was a really small town, Blackwood in Victoria, for anyone who knows it, sort of near Daylesford, Trentham, that kind of area. The lady who owned the Airbnb, who lived in the main house, was the celebrant at the wedding, which I discovered because I went down a night early. So I discovered that the night before. So...
Describe to me her vibe.
A lady who owns an Airbnb in the country and is a celebrant.
So
I reckon just based on that, whatever woman you're picturing, you're spot on.
I'm picturing flowy black dress.
Oh, yeah.
I'm picturing sort of blonde hair to almost the shoulders, bit curly but frizzy almost.
A bit darker. A bit darker hair.
A bit darker.
Yeah.
And then I'm picturing like a look in her eyes that's like, I've maybe seen a fairy.
Yeah, there was a lot of that. I did clock a Magic Happens bumper sticker on her car in the driveway when I got there.
Wow.
I feel like this is a real descriptor, and I didn't realise this until I stayed in the house. Just a washing machine that's outside in the driveway. You know what I mean?
To use?
No, just there. Like getting the Airbnb descriptions and it's like, yeah, the key's under the washing machine that's outside. It's like,
great.
Say no more. This is the kind of, I feel like that's just such a, it just tells you a lot, you know?
Yeah.
I can't really describe in what way, but I feel like it's a real vibe.
Do they have hard rubbish in the country? I don't think we had it where I'm from.
It did, her house, the back of it did really have that vibe of just like, yeah, I'll figure out all this, where all this stuff goes eventually.
Taking stuff to the dump is expensive. And then they can sell a lot of stuff anyway.
Yeah.
So
your property's big enough to just kind of just have it and
just
find a use for it eventually.
Yeah, just drill. Oh, God. My brain is just like, drill some holes in the bottom of the washing machine. What's that? Big plant pot.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing that is something I learned about you is a skill of yours, which we can get into a bit later.
Yeah.
Your DIY craft ability. But maybe you're like this. This was a feature of the house that I was losing my mind over. You know those like the kind of the wall mounted TV things that's like the swivel arm thing that comes out.
Yeah, so you can tilt it wherever you are.
Yeah. So the TV clearly too big to fit on the wall mount. So it was sitting on the kitchen bench, and then on that bracketed extendable arm thing, there was just a painting that was like probably the size of like an A3 piece of paper. So not even that big.
Just to cover it
mounted,
up.
Just mounted to the extendable arm. So you can just now just pull this painting out and just kind of have it facing it angled wherever you want. If you want to just enjoy the painting from this corner of the room or that corner of the room.
To be honest, I kind of love that.
I was like, this actually rules. And it was just like a black and white illustration of like a flower pot. It was like the most like nothing piece of art as well.
But you might say that, but what if it's like, when you do a new bit, a drawing or a painting or whatever, and then you just like to look at it because you're like, wow, I made that.
Look what I've done.
Look at the thing. Yeah, like when she's in the house, it's there because it's her most recent one, and she wants to watch it from wherever she is because she's like, wow, I can't believe I made that.
So that's the whole vibe of the Airbnb. Then so the day of the wedding, my friend comes around he was just going to crash on the couch. He comes around to have a beer and then we're like, we'll set off. And I deliberately booked this place because it was like walking distance to the ceremony and then the reception. Again, it's this really tiny town, so everything's kind of very close together. And the celebrant, as she's heading off, she's like, by the way, that track out the front there, that leads directly to where the ceremony is. The ceremony's happening just like next to the river, next to the springs. It's like a 10-minute walk. It's like super flat. It's super easy. You can just go right there. And we're like, how good's this? So we just get a beer out of the fridge, where we set off. 15 minutes into the walk, the path just disappears, and then we are bush bashing. At a certain point, there is no sign of any path or track whatsoever, and we are just fully lost in the bush, in our suits, in like a 38-degree day, just absolutely lost.
Are you wearing a hat?
No.
Oh, my God.
Exactly. I'm like, by the time, if we make it to the wedding now, I'm going to have one beer, have fucking heat stroke and be asleep at 2 in the afternoon. And like, I don't know if you've been in a situation where in your head you're like, the next 10 minutes are so crucial because in that time, this is either going to turn into a funny story that we're telling at the wedding or we are going to be on the news tonight.
Yeah. Which is also funny.
Yeah. I truly was just there being like, because then you get to the point where you're like, I don't even know how we would get back to the house from here. And then at that point we would have to like walk up along the road and like we've missed the wedding anyway at this point.
Yeah.
Like
you've ruined the wedding too.
We've ruined the wedding. We are just walking around going like, we need to find any form of like, we just basically need to find a path. We need to find, it's exactly what you're talking about. It's not like, what are we going to eat out here? It's like, we just need to do, and it truly was because we knew the wedding was happening kind of along the water, like the springs. So we're like, if we just sort of follow the water, we'll be okay. But then we get to a point where it's too overgrown to even do that. We're like, physically, we can't get through.
I feel like what happened, and I feel like what happened is, sometimes there's like a path, right? And then the kangaroos start to use the path.
Sure.
And then they just also make their own paths. And suddenly you don't realise which path is the path and which path is just a path the kangaroos made.
Yeah. Well, and you might be guilty of this too. I've been done by this before with Airbnbs in that part of the world, and the hosts, the people that live in that area, they always completely downplay stuff like this because they're walking it all the time. So then being like, yeah, it's like a 5-minute walk and it's a really easy track. And it's like, if you know it, then
they also
it is.
Probably haven't done it in 15 years.
Yeah. And what we couldn't stop laughing about was she says all this to us and then she just got in the car and drove to the exact same spot we were going to.
Well, she didn't want to get some
couldn't we get a
grass
lift?
seeds on her dress.
Why couldn't we have had a lift?
That's true. Well,
she just left us to die in the middle of the bush.
Maybe she didn't like you.
Yeah, it could have been a bit of that.
She was hoping.
It could have been a bit of that.
Magic happens.
So we get there, we've missed the vows. Like the ceremony is happening.
Wow.
Like we come running out and like we literally just emerge from this bush covered in sticks and dirt and the ceremony's happening and it's like everyone sitting watching has their backs to us, but like, yeah, the bride and groom, they see us.
Yeah.
The celebrant fucking sees us come stumbling out and then we're sitting there and we're just, you know, you don't even get that decompression. You just like, you have to like sit and just be quiet and.
You're trying to hide your empty beer bottle too.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. No time for debriefing, just sitting there, just going like, this is so humiliating. Just a complete fuck up. But what was nice about it was the bride is Japanese and a lot of her family had come out. A lot of people there that didn't really speak much or any English at all. And then word sort of starts to get around the wedding later on at the reception about, you know, our debacle and that I've got this video of Raph crossing a log with no shoes on. And so people would just come up to me and in sort of broken English start to ask to see the video. And so I'm showing the video. People are loving it. So it was this really nice, it was like being able to show them like a Buster Keaton film, just this thing that transcended the language barrier, you know? There are fuckwits in every country, you know, they come to this other culture.
It's fun for tourists, isn't it? To be like, wow, that didn't happen to us.
Yeah. So what, if you were in my shoes in that scenario, you're like,
I would never
you're
have.
10 minutes in, the path is gone. What are you doing?
I would have noticed the point where the path stopped being the path.
Yeah.
Because you're supposed to keep your eyes on the ground.
Yeah. No, we noticed that, but we were like.
Oh, you just kept walking.
We just have to keep going.
Well, I think
was that a mistake?
That's a mistake. Then I would have been like, well, if I don't know where the path is, I'll best head back towards the start and not walk into the Australian bush, renowned for its deadly wildlife.
Yeah, I mean, but again, this is with
a bald man. You can't. So I've got a bald dad. My bald dad is like so stressed out about his head being in the sun. Your skin is in the sun.
I know.
This is the biggest fear for me after having the bald dad. It's just being like, you got to get him inside. You got to cover him in zinc.
Yeah, it's pretty much. I've been to like, I mostly wear hats, and then like, it's weddings, and especially summer weddings. Ben and Maggie's wedding in Noosa.
Yeah,
I was standing outside at that, being like, I am going to die, and then I saw Luke McGregor turned up with an umbrella to protect his ginger complexion, and I was like, that's the move, honestly. I've got to start doing that if I'm at these things in the middle of summer.
Or you just get a cool hat.
At a wedding, I just don't know. I don't know.
You can get a wide brimmy one. I mean, you look, the thing is like.
It's the problem is it's too fedora adjacent.
Well, maybe the thing is you add a sign to it that says not a fedora bald.
Like the little press cap.
This is not a choice.
Yeah. This is purely for protection.
Yeah.
And then
or you get a veil.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Yeah. What's can boys have fascinators?
Don't know. Don't think so.
Okay.
Unfortunately. I mean, I'd like to.
It'd be fun, wouldn't
I'd like to try getting it going on.
Because you could get one with heaps of feathers.
Yeah.
That sort of like, so it's not like you're covering the hair.
Like a little Jamiroquai hat.
Yeah.
That I wear to all the weddings I go to from now on.
All the weddings, yeah. You could do that. Or one of those big bishop hats or a chef's hat, one of those ones that are easy to down.
Yeah, that's a good call. So your advice would be
hat.
Next time I'm lost in the bush, hat, as soon as I'm setting off, regardless of how formal what I'm going to is, hat.
And don't get lost in the bush.
And don't get lost. Keep an eye on the ground.
Keep an eye on the ground.
And better to just know when to fold them. Turn around, go back the minute the path disappears.
Yeah, the minute the path disappears, unless you got someone with you who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I just feel like if it's you
Yeah. So have you been lost? Have you had to call on these skills too many times as an adult?
As an adult, no. I mean, I did get lost on a hike a little while ago because similar, I was at an Airbnb up in like the Hunter Valley somewhere.
Yep.
And on the thing it said there's like a 8-kilometer hike. It was like a big hike or whatever. Mm-hmm. But then my ex, he didn't want to come on the hike. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, well, fine, you nap and I'll go do this hike. So I went to go for the hike, and then probably about halfway through the hike, I was like, I'm not sure. Because like there was a point where it was like, is this still the path, or am I on a kangaroo trail? Because it had these little arrows intermittently.
Yeah.
And like at the start, the path was very clear. But then at a certain point, the path became just overgrown. There was just arrows every so often. And so I had to sort of work out in the long grass where I thought the path was likely to be.
Right.
And because it was quite a long sort of hike, there were multiple points where I was like, oh, I'm not sure I've done this well. And I took photos on my phone of where I was in the past to make sure that I could go back.
Oh, yeah,
but
like
then,
a modern Hansel and Gretel style.
Yeah, I'd breadcrumbed myself.
Yeah.
But then there's like the like sunk cost fallacy where at some point you're like, if I walk back, I've got to go back 2 hours that way.
So you're on the hike and then you eventually what was your survival technique?
My survival technique was just from being in the bush. Okay, so my biggest thing, I think, like, if you just have grown up around the bush, you just know the way the bush works. And so you just understand, like, where natural paths are, which in those hikes and things like that, usually that's what they follow. Because who's digging extra?
Yeah.
Up in the mountains.
Yeah.
You're not doing stuff you don't have to. So you're just following it. So I just used my skills of deduction from being around it. Because Granddad is very good. I realised that I was actually naturally gifted at it recently when I went home and visited. And we were, because Granddad's angry at the cockatoos at the moment because they keep eating his passion fruits. But then,
and this has been a pretty placid relationship his entire life, and then it's just turned hostile recently.
No. He's always hated the cockatoos.
He's always hated them, especially at the moment.
At the moment, yeah, because sometimes the passion fruits are more like, sometimes the vines are more loaded with them. Sometimes they're less loaded with them, you know. And I guess it was a bad season, and these cockatoos kept stealing it. But then they'd shit out the seeds. So Granddad was taking me for a walk through the bush around his house to show me all the new passion fruit vines that he's still angry at the cockatoos about eating the passion fruit from, even though they technically planted those.
Yep.
But my cousin was with us, and he was like right behind Granddad, and Granddad just kept snapping, being like, "Get the fuck away from me! Get back! If there's a snake there, I'm gonna step back and I'm gonna trip you over, and then we're both gonna be dead. The snake's gonna bite us. We're both gonna be dead." And I was about like 5 meters away from Granddad, just watching him, being like, "Yep." He never yelled at me like that. I just knew to steer clear.
Yeah, okay. I wish I had that about nature. I wish I had this like calm. I'm at peace with it. I'm at. I know what's going on. Like, I immediately in that scenario, I was like, the bush wants me dead. This is true natural selection.
You just
this is what's
chill
meant
out.
to happen.
Chill out. Look at the sky.
Yeah. So you're also good at your eyes lit up at the mention of an outdoor washing machine and what you could do with that. You were saying you've like most of the stuff in your house is like upcycled, like hard rubbish stuff that you found and refurbed?
Yeah, it's fun, you know. You just find the hard rubbish and then you bring it home. You sort of have like this feeling first where you see it, and then it's like, that's so Raven moment where she like, oh, and her eyes go and she's like seeing a whole, like what's going to happen in the future.
Never seen it, but I'm picturing it pretty clearly right now.
Okay, well, it's imagine you're having a prophecy.
Yep.
And then you snap back to reality and you've got the goosebumps. And then you pick up whatever you've found on the side of the road, you take it home, then you spend 2 to 3 hours on Pinterest creating a board of all the ideas you had in that 1 second.
Yeah, okay.
Because in that 1 second you sort of had every piece of DIY knowledge in the universe come into your brain and every single possible colour coordination you could think of pop into your head. And then you've created a board and then you sit down and look at it and work out how you're going to do it. And then you go to Bunnings.
That does sound good. I'm just always fascinated with like looking at what people have left out, and in my head, the only place my head goes is, what's the story with this being thrown out? You know what I mean? Like, why did someone get rid of this? Especially if it, like last night, I was walking around and this guy, it's not even coming up to hard rubbish near us. This guy came barreling out of his house with like a little bedside table, and he looked quite angry, and he just kind of like just sort of left it in the street in like a bit of a huff and then went back inside. And I was saying to Lauren, I just invented this whole scenario in my head where I was like, it really seemed to me like he's been single for a long time. And when you're single for a long time, you maybe have like a bedside table on like your side of the bed, and then he started seeing someone and it was going really well, and he was like, you know what? I found this little found this little bedside table. I'll get one for like her side of the bed when she sleeps over. And then she's called him during the day and like, hey, it's been really great, but I'm just not feeling it. And then he's just like gone into the bedroom and been like, won't be needing the fucking table anymore. Like he was just throwing it out with like there was just such an attitude to it that I was like,
wow.
It didn't seem like just, this is some rubbish that's going out.
What I like is that we're both in very different stages of where we are in the way we think about relationships, where you think of it as like this single man is sad and angry.
Yeah.
Whereas in my mind, when you mentioned this man in a huff walking outside with it, I immediately went to his girlfriend's been telling him to take that outside for the last 4 weeks and it's been sitting in the walkway annoying her. And now he's in a huff having to take it outside.
Yeah.
But he didn't listen to her, what she said weeks ago. Why is he in a huff? She's asked politely so many times.
Yeah.
But that's just the way we are. So you're quite happily in a relationship and I'm just recently single. So it's like the different where I'm like, relationship, yuck. And you're like, oh, I can't wait to get married.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that's my version of the That's So Raven, is just inventing the backstory. And obviously the healthier and more practical thing is to imagine all of the different things that I could do with that very nice bedside table and take it and go to Bunnings and do something with it myself. But instead I'm now like 24 hours on in a different city just telling someone else about a 5-second interaction that I had in the street with a guy who lives around the corner from me.
I mean, I do like it when you're watching on sort of like from a distance, like you're sort of the stalker of the street almost, staring, waiting. That is how I feel with hard rubbish.
Yeah, I love, because my dad loves hard rubbish. My dad's a very like handy, practical guy, loves fixing stuff up, and they live in quite an affluent area, and my dad is just always blown away by the stuff that is thrown out that just literally needs like a new, like one thing, like it's a wealthy enough area that it's like, oh, this globe's gone out, whole thing's in the bin. Like
a
not
lamp.
Just, well, no, it's just stuff like, literally stuff like that.
Okay.
He'll find stuff that is just, all it needs is like 1 or 2 things done to it and it's good to go again.
See, I'm not in a good area like that. So I'm getting hard rubbish that it's like my current coffee table was like, one of those like things that I assume it would have come from like Freedom Furniture. Mm-hmm. It like was white and like that shiny, whatever that is. Do you know what that stuff is? That's like, it looks like plastic, but it's not. It's like covered. It's like wood covered in some sort of shiny.
Yeah, all of my furniture, like so much of the stuff in my childhood bedroom was that.
Yeah. It's weird.
I don't like it.
It's not good.
Texturally, I don't. Yeah.
It was not good. But it was like cracked on one bit, and then it was also like I think a dog had pissed on it. But it was in good condition and had a drawer, and I was like, I wouldn't like this the way it is. But I took it home, and then I sanded all the shiny off it, and then any of the like deep cracks and stuff that were in it, there were sort of like divots, like I don't know that. Stuff is like, I guess it's like resin covering it or something. I don't know what it is. But there was like some cracks, like, I don't know, some chunks taken out. So I just filled that in with some like spack filler stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I covered in this like, I don't know what the stuff is that I used. I had some stuff left over from a different project that I guess is like what you'd use to put on a wall. And it sort of like has a really lovely velvet finish.
Okay.
And so I covered the whole thing in that. And then I painted it fluorescent yellow. And then I put a sheet of glass over the top, and now it actually looks like a really expensive piece of furniture. It sounds horrible from the way I've described it, but it looks really cool.
Yeah, okay, because you're also working on, is it a multi-level little house for your dog?
Yes, so that is an upside down coffee table at the bottom. So you know those ones that have like the legs that like are ornate, like they've been like mushed around the wood tillers or something. I don't know what they do. Wood carving, you know how people like do the chisel and that. So all the legs are like ornate. So I flipped that upside down, and then I've put wheels on the bottom of that, so I'll be able to roll it around. And then I found a bit of plywood as well that was perfect for putting on top of that. So that will be the roof. Mm-hmm. But then he was enjoying it because I put a cushion in the bottom. Mm-hmm. But then I put a cushion on top, and then he was enjoying sitting up high. So luckily, I found I found some legs on the side of the road that were also ornate.
Yeah, this is what I feel like, because I never really have anything specific in mind when I walk around and see hard rubbish. I'll just see like, a bedside table, and it's like, well, I have a bedside table. I need like an ongoing thing that I'm building that then I can be like, I need 3 legs. I need I need to be on the hunt for a specific thing.
I see. I just find stuff. I had the legs from I just seen the legs and thought I'd like those.
Yep.
And I just put them in the garage downstairs.
Yep.
But then when it clicked that he would like a second level, then I was like, oh, great. So then I was outside, I was sawing them down to size the other day. And then I found a bunch of other plywood. So I've cut that to size and I built like a house for the top. And then I sawed out an arch window because I went to reverse garbage.
It's awesome knowing, like, when I messaged you the other day asking if you wanted to do this and I didn't hear back from it for a day, just knowing that what you were doing were like fucking welding a doghouse out in your backyard. I was like, this makes total sense.
I was gold foiling the other day. I was because the pillars sort of look like the pillars of a temple. I was like, oh, we'll need some gold on that.
We're like that. You got a little theme going on.
Yeah. Well, it's a confusing theme at the moment because it's sort of the pillars make it feel like temple, but then I'd already built the dog house, and then I'd started making this because I found some perspex at reverse garbage that was in the shape of an arch that was like perfect for the windows already. So I cut them to size for that, and then I'd gotten some glass paints to make like a fake stained glass window.
This is the detail that I love. Yeah,
it looks so cool.
I bet.
I'll have to show you a photo because I got a picture of the stained glass. I just have to do like a second and third coat.
Sick.
But it looks cool.
This could be. I could see this being mad side hustle for you, making stained glass windows of people's dogs for them.
Oh, yeah.
Little bespoke dog houses for people.
I do wonder if any of them had a dog that wanted to chew on things, this could be an issue.
Yeah, okay.
Because my dog doesn't really care about chewing on things, and the roof is sort of tiled out of large paddle pop sticks.
Yeah, okay, sure.
So it might not. Yeah, but no, actually, if I was doing it for somebody else's dog, I'd be like, well, I don't know your dog, so
you obviously
I would make it a bit more.
You need to have a consult with the dog. You need a bit of a vibe of what they're...
Let me see what he's like and what's he like when you leave him out of the house.
Yeah,
when
exactly.
You're just gone.
So how
for
far away from completion are we of this...
Well, that depends on how ornate I go with the patterns that I'm thinking about doing on it. Because when I started painting the legs as the temple, I was like, well, this is going to be fun. And then I started doing it, and then I was like, I should gold foil that. And, then you start to
How long into the project did you start referring to it as the temple in your head? At what point did it pivot from, like, little bespoke house to his temple?
That was probably only 2 to 3 weeks ago.
Okay, yep.
I have been collecting the stuff.
Yep.
For about a year.
Okay.
So it's really come in... Well, actually, it really started going hardcore after the insolvency happened within my life.
Yes, yes.
And so I was like, okay. So I started building and building and building and building and building. Anyway, it's probably, I reckon it's probably about 12 to 15 hours away from completion, pending what I decide to do with the cushions. Because my friend had foam lying around from when she made her cat couch.
Right.
And so I have that foam, and I cut that to size for the bottom, and now I feel like I would like to make a specific pattern out of the 2 blue fabrics that I have.
Oh, yeah.
So that it matches the 2 blues that I have used. I was thinking sort of like not a checker, like a diamonds, like all diamonds on it.
You don't have to reveal this on the air, but are you thinking about possibly, like, in the walls of the temple, hiding some cash so that the liquidators can't get to it?
Now, that's not a bad idea.
That's not a bad idea at all.
That's not a bad idea because people might look at it and be like, well, this isn't going to fetch much on the market, this doghouse.
Yeah.
I wouldn't
It's
mind.
It's the offshore Cayman Islands holding account. It's too obvious. Everyone's moving into storing their money in a bespoke little dog temple that they've made.
That's true. Nobody's going to think to look in the dog temple, are they?
Yeah. People will look in there to just see the little dog. But then no further questions.
And
We've
they're not
seen
going to
the
get
stained glass
closer because
window.
he'll be like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love the idea of this becoming a thing that you could do for more dogs.
I mean, people would really have to pay me some proper money because I do get very much like, you know, when you go like, you love making stuff, but after you make one, you're like, well, why would I want to do the same thing again?
Yeah, and you make one for you and you really care about it because it's for you, and
Yeah.
then to do it for someone else, obviously you still want it to be good, but it is hard to have that same level of like...
Yeah, or what if
Yeah.
you make one and it's better than... Because yours is the prototype. Then suddenly
Yeah,
you've
good
got
point.
the worst one you've ever made.
Good point.
And then you're like, well, I don't want this one anymore.
Yeah. So something else that I was interested in, which would obviously have just recently had some relevancy, getting gifts for people. I feel like you're really good at like identifying gifts that are going to be good for people.
Yes, well, specifically, I'm good at when somebody says like they like something, I will never forget that.
Right.
It will be in the back of my head for forever, and then I will be able to be like, if I'm walking through the shops and I see something that's that thing, it will immediately trigger that memory, and so I'll be like, oh, I need to get that right now.
Yeah.
You know, and that is, I think, the way you make people feel loved.
Yeah, no,
You
definitely.
arrive at
I
their
love the
house.
challenge of getting gifts for people, and I'm always having people tell me that I'm hard to buy for. Lauren says that I'm hard to buy for, and I'm like, I just don't, like, I have so many, like, clear interests, and she's like, but you also have no impulse control, so when you want something, you just get it. So when it
Yeah.
comes time to get something for your birthday, everything that I've heard you talk about, you've just then gone and gotten. I'm like, that's a good point.
Is it also, though, because you're so specific, like, in your interests? Like, you're not like, you know those people who, like, they say, like, I'm into scuba diving.
Yeah.
But really they've, like, read one Wikipedia article and done, like, one weekend scuba diving course.
Yeah.
And you're like, I don't think you understand how into this thing I am. I've gone down every rabbit hole. I've read every article about which different brand is going to be best for this different thing.
Sure.
So if somebody bought you, like, I don't know, like a watercolor pad, you would be like, that's a shit watercolor pad.
I get you,
would
yeah.
only
Just
be
because
able
I
to
like
use
art,
this
it's
for-
like you can't just get me like any old paint.
Yeah.
Do you feel like when you give gifts to people, do you feel like you're getting back, like when people, you know, because obviously if you really feel like you're nailing it,
Yeah.
and there's that moment where you're in front of them and you're like, holy shit, I can't wait to see the look on this person's face. And
Yeah.
you really do want them to give it up. You really do want them to have
Yeah.
the moment of like, Jesus Christ, you know me better than I know myself.
Yeah, I want them to cry.
Yeah.
Of course. But giving a gift is about you too. You
No,
know?
absolutely.
It's
If for whatever reason, if it was my, I don't know, 40th tomorrow and you were coming and you had to get me a gift,
Okay.
right now off the top of your head, with what you know about me with the last few times we've interacted, what would you be doing? What would you be going for?
Okay. Well, actually, this is actually good because I have a get out of jail free card.
This is so
with gifts.
girlies of me. What's your favourite thing about me?
What I would do is what I've done for a few people is I would make a little sculpture of their dog.
Oh, great. Yeah, great.
Yeah, and because Cupie, so I would do like Cupie on, like, I've done one before where I've got like a little bit of plywood and done it so that they stand up, and then done the name in clay too so that the name is there on it.
Yes, okay.
And then on one I've done a tiny tennis ball, but for Cupies I do a tiny Cupie mayo
Yeah.
beside it.
Now, genuinely, and I'm not just saying this, if I'm breaking that open, if I'm having a weird 40th where then I'm making everyone sit down and watch me open all my gifts,
Yeah.
you're getting tears.
Good.
You're getting a real breakdown from me. That would send me.
See, that's good because also you like interior decor too. You
Yeah.
like little things for shelves.
Yep.
So there we
like a
go.
little knick-knack. Yep.
Yeah.
I like all that stuff. Yeah, that is, and it's personal.
Yeah.
Me and Lauren got each other the same gift for Christmas.
Okay, that's crazy.
I've talked on a couple of episodes about one of my gifts to her was I'm going to do a short massage course because she always wants me to give her massages
Okay.
and I'm shit at them. And I was like, you know what? I'll go and I'll learn how to actually do it. But then we got each other the same book and I unwrapped hers first and it's like a very particular shape and weight to it. And I could kind of feel it as I was holding it wrapped up. in my head I was like, now you got to get ready to do some pretty good acting here because it's going to be the book. You don't
and
want
you want her to be the one to open
she
up
was
the
going
same
second.
thing. Yeah.
So I don't want to just open it and be like, I got you the same thing. You
Yeah.
know, so I'm like, I open it up and I'm doing, you know, I'm giving it everything, and I genuinely, it's like, yeah, it's a good book, and then yeah, she opens hers and she's like, this is so funny. And I said that to someone and they were like, you know what? I've had that experience with my partner before. We bought each other the same book, and then it's kind of nice because you're reading it at the same time and you're talking about it as it's going along, and you're not having to like, you know, wait to, you know, borrow it after they're done. And I was like, yeah, that is great. This is a book of national parks where you can take dogs in Victoria. It's not really the kind of thing that you need more than one of in a house.
I mean, I love 2 coffee table books just stacked
Sitting in
on
bed
top of
just
each
going
other.
through it page by page together.
I kind of love that though, that both of you.
Yeah, one where we keep in the car for when we're out and we want to go on a walk, and then one for just perusing for ideas in the living room.
Do you know, once me and my friend, when I was growing up, you know, when Harry Potter books were like, everybody was like, you need it. When the first one came out, you'd be like waiting to get it.
Yeah.
It was like, I remember when Goblet of Fire came out, and my friend Jess up the road, she didn't have the book yet because her like family, she was waiting for the school library to get it, and my nana and granddad had got it because it came out near my birthday.
Right.
So she came down and we were lying in bed together trying to read the same page
at
the same time.
Yeah, Lauren had the exact same experience with her sister when that book came out, or when one of them came out, and massive. I mean, it's probably, I don't know, maybe it was like a bit more relaxed in a friendship dynamic, but in a sister dynamic, lot of arguments about the speed at which one of them was reading. Like, I think it was like her sister being like, come on, I'm ready to turn the goddamn page. Pick up the pace.
See, we did have the same thing because my friend Jess, she was a faster reader, but I need to read at the pace that I'm talking at so that I can
I'm the same.
understand. Like these people who speed read, I'm like, are you taking in?
Yeah, I'm the same. People who took some time offline over the Christmas New Year break.
Yeah.
And then they get back online and they're like, what a great break. I read 19 books. It's like, what are you talking about? And then some of them, they're like, yeah, a couple of them were audio books that I listened to at 5 times speed. It's like, I'm sorry, that does not count.
You're not taking in anything then.
Yeah.
Especially like unless it's like a scientific thing, which also you're not taking that in at full capacity. If you're listening to dialogue at 5 times speed,
absolutely,
you are not learning social cues from these books because it's.
I reckon that is warping your brain to listen to human speech at that speed.
It's crazy.
For such an extended period of time.
I can't even do when people do 1.5 speed, like on YouTube stuff.
I'm
like, can we have the silence in between while people are thinking? Because if not, I feel like an idiot.
I'm glad to hear you say that you're a reader at the speed that you're speaking, because I've kind of always felt a little bit dim for having to read that way. You know, it feels like, in my head, it feels as if I'm like someone that has to like speak out loud as I'm writing down a word or something, you know? Like, just knowing that other people don't have to do it. I've always been like, am I slow?
I think it's like an enjoyment thing too.
Yeah.
It's like, why would I rush myself?
I'm pretending I'm in a little play. You know, I'm doing the dialogue in my head.
Exactly.
I'm shooting the scene. I'm like blocking everyone.
That makes me think that actually what we are is more creative.
Yeah.
Because other people, they're not putting in the work.
I think it's the sign of being a genius.
Yeah, that's us.
So how did you go over Christmas with giving gifts? Were you like, was it a good, you know, did you feel like your skills were put to good use?
We actually did like no gifts at all this year.
Oh, that's a nightmare for you.
So, I mean, it was actually good because a lot of the time my family, they're sick of me making them things. Mm-hmm. So they have put a ban on.
Okay.
Not that they haven't, like my mum and Nana and stuff, they will be fine with that. But like my sisters, they put a ban on me ages ago because when they were teenagers, they were like, we want you to buy us like a sports girl gift card. We don't want a painting. And now I'm like, well.
It's funny how it comes back around, how like obviously like when you're a really little kid, that's the move for like, you know, macaroni on the glued to the plate or whatever. And then, you get older and you're trying to like, you know, maybe like opt out of the sheer commercialization and capitalists, like
And you're poor.
I'll make you something.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to buy you a fucking bar of soap or whatever that you don't really care about. I'll make you something personalized. And it is like you've totally regressed to just being a little 5-year-old going, look, mummy, I did you a painting.
Yeah. Well, I feel like sometimes parents like when you make them stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
My mum got really angry one year when I made everybody. I ran out of time for making stuff because I'd made my sister like a charm bracelet with it was like she loves Winnie the Pooh, so I made like a honey pot and like a little bee and then like a Winnie the Pooh head and like I put some crystals on it or whatever. And then I made my nana because I'd made my granddad a sculpture of his favorite dog Shep riding the lawnmower.
Yes, I've seen this. You've got this in one of your shows and it's awesome.
And then my nana, I said to her, "What's your favorite animal?" Because I was going to make her a necklace with something on. And then she said, German Shepherds. And I think she was just jealous that Granddad had a German Shepherd and she didn't. So then I make this tiny German Shepherd pendant. And then I just ran out of time because that thing took me so long.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was so tiny that it took so long to do. And then Mum was so angry that I hadn't made her something.
Yeah, okay.
That all Christmas was like, she was like, at my gift I'd gotten her, which was a gift card for a place she'd asked for a gift card for. But then she was so angry being like, oh, I mean, I would have liked a necklace too, you know. I love German Shepherds as well, you know. I was like, you would never wear that.
So one final question. If you could know everything about one thing,
Okay.
what would it be?
Maybe like finance.
Is that based on any recent...
Yeah, I want to know, please, how do I take care of myself financially?
I did ask you, like, when was the last time you had to bumble your way through a conversation of something that you know nothing about?
Yes.
And you said talking about insolvency paperwork over Christmas.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
dad was trying to talk to me about it and I was like, Dad, you're stressing me out on Christmas. I don't. I'm trying to make the salads. Leave me alone.
What's happened to Santa? He's going bankrupt.
I don't know, Dad. Don't make me talk about paperwork.
Yeah. God
Yeah.
damn.
I wish I just knew what you're supposed to invest in and like how to be good with that stuff.
Oh my God, absolutely. Like the people that are like they've not even really had like a career where they've done anything where they've ever like massively hit it big, but
Yeah.
they've just been like smart with couple things early on. I wish I could be like, I've got friends who they've gone through like 5 credit cards in the last couple of years. You put a bunch of stuff on them, you get the points.
Yeah.
You get out before you owe them anything, and then
Yeah.
all of a sudden you just got some free flights. God, I'd love to be organised enough to handle doing any of that
know.
stuff where just like you're gaming the system. It truly is like if you're smart enough,
Yeah.
it's literal free money.
I'd have to be so on top of stuff and I'm
Yeah.
so not on top of stuff.
Yeah.
It's
Term deposits,
absolutely-
all that stuff.
Yeah,
Just
I've never had a credit card because I'm terrified.
Yeah, the money that you already have, like earning you other money, it's like that is the true dream.
That is, my friend said she has like enough money in there that now she just gets like $1,000 a fortnight.
Oh my God.
I'm like,
yeah.
what the hell?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
And I have a friend who is really good with that stuff, and he'll ask me about this stuff in relation to myself.
Yeah.
And I'll say the answer is like I don't do any of that stuff. And then he'll do this fucked thing where he'll be like, do you realize based on what you've told me about earning this here, you could have got, I'm like, don't give me the number. It's because it doesn't exist. Like I couldn't have because I didn't. So
I'm not that person.
Don't tell me the number.
Yeah.
I'm going to lie awake at night for months now thinking about this.
Well, this is the thing as well. It's like, I find it too boring
Yeah.
to learn the info.
Yeah.
Which is why I need it to just have it in my head.
Yeah,
So
no.
that it would be a thing that already exists in my brain.
I've been saying for like 10 years, I got to read that Barefoot Investor book. And it's like, it's just not happening.
It doesn't
There's
sound like a
books that
page
are
turner, does it?
entertaining that I want to read.
Yeah.
I mean, that's
come on, give me another book with elves.
Yeah, I mean, that is, I will say, okay, that probably is one for the audiobook at 5 times speed. If I can just
Yeah.
kind of like whip through it and then maybe a couple of points stick in there.
That could be one that you put on like the the machine in your room that plays sound.
Yeah.
And just have it going while you're sleeping and hoping by osmosis.
Yeah, they should make a version of it that's like those tapes people listen to quit smoking in their sleep. Like a version of that,
How to be money savvy.
but just for finances. Yeah. And just all of a sudden you're like a month down the line, you're like, oh, when did I get these like 5 other accounts that are all just like generating cash for me?
I mean, it sounds like a dream, but I also might just get stressed out before bed.
Yeah. Where'd this stock portfolio come from? I guess I just do that instinctively now. And there you have it. Danielle Walker, some great advice. How not to die in the middle of the bush. How to make stuff your own. How to get crafty around the house. How to make a little castle, a little stained glass window for your dog. I really got to follow up on getting her to make me a little Cupid statue. That's something to work on in the future. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, we are on Patreon. It is free at the moment. Every now and then I put a little bonus piece of content up there. It's also the place that you can go to discuss things from this episode. Patreon.com/howtodoeverything. Do you have bush survival skills? Have you nearly died while on the way to a wedding? Are you good at upcycling? Do you have a keen eye for hard rubbish? Are you in an amateur theatre production and you'd be happy to bring on Hugh Jackman as an understudy? To have him wait around to maybe get the big call up. Let me know. Always love hearing from you guys. Thank you for listening. Please do give the show a rating on your podcast player of choice. Really helps get the word out. Really love hearing from you guys every week. And thank you for listening. And I will see you next week. Goodbye.